Okay, we're on. Welcome to the stream. Yeah, a couple things right off the bat. Get out of the way here. For one, I'm still recovering from a cold, so my voice probably sounds a little bit different. Sorry about that. Just about finished with it, but you know, takes time. What else? Oh yeah, so I wanted to just explain myself because I missed streaming last week. I think I just missed 1 week, but it's hard to remember at this point. It was for a number of reasons. Mostly, I was taking some time off for my day job, so I was just out and about all day. I should have just announced it earlier. I apologize for not doing that ahead of time, so you guys knew what was up. But that's all. I mean, otherwise, anytime that I have a stream where, you know, it's just not very active and I'm not really talking to people at all, which is what happened the week prior, I usually feel the need to take a break. You know, there's a lot of self-questioning after that kind of stream. So it's also just kind of a natural result of that experience. And otherwise have just been very busy, honestly. Just lots of overtime and stuff. So even today, after I finish up, I'll probably just go right back to working. But yeah, as for today, let's have a nice stream. It'll be good. We will be talking a little bit about the Oscar stuff, which I did not watch a minute of the Oscars, but that's okay. You know, none of us need to. We can get all of the relevant news later on, which is exactly how it has played out this year as well. And, you know, well, I mean, it's mentioned at least once on the screen right now. It's mentioned several times on this website in different forms. But yes, as we all expected, Boy and the Heron did win for animated feature. Not surprising in the least, I don't think. You know, there was certainly competition. There was viable competition. Spider-Verse had taken it. You know, that wouldn't have been unexpected, but at the same time, the most likely outcome was that The Boy and the Heron would win, and there you go. It won. We did not get some kind of great Miyazaki speech because he didn't show up. Nor did Wes Anderson show up for his live-action short film win, which I believe was his first ever Oscar, as far as I know. At least his first Oscar in a long time. He didn't show up either. Which I thought was kind of funny because they also pushed pretty hard in terms of the FYC marketing for Henry Sugar. That's what it's called, right? So I don't know. Maybe that was the distributor more so than his studio, you know? Anyway, but yes, we will be talking about Oscar stuff a little bit later on to see, I don't know, to see if there are any other big takeaways or any other significant comments to make on the whole thing. And yeah, before that, we'll just run through some headlines, and maybe it's because it's a busy week, maybe it's because I haven't streamed for a couple weeks, but there is quite a bit here to talk about. Some of it not so much in depth, but yeah, I don't know. We'll get into some of that stuff too. And that's it. No other big activities planned for the day. As always, just chatting, just hanging out. If there's anything you would like to talk about, whether it is directly related to animation and video games, media in general or not, it's totally okay. If you have recommendations for shows or movies specifically that you've been checking out lately, go for it. And on that note, I feel like I should check real quick what I did watch. Oh yeah, I did watch, and who knows, maybe I will feel like making a video about it in a little bit. But I watched some bad movies, but I also watched the Marcel movie, which I had, of course, known about for a long time. I think it released last summer, as far as I know, for theaters, probably a limited theatrical release. And yeah, now it's on Netflix and maybe a couple other streaming services. Anyway, I finally watched the Marcel the Shell with Shoes On movie. Um, and talk about talk about expected, but in a positive way. Um, you know, I think we all knew that that was just going to be a great movie, and it is. You know, that's that's kind of all there is to it, really. Um, it's just great. It's more of Marcel, and as anyone who was already familiar with that work prior to this movie coming out already knew, Marcel is more than just like the cutesy voice and cutesy visuals, although obviously those are a big part of it. Um, no, it's just good writing slash improvising, whatever. Just the dialogue is fantastic, and it's a great performance from Jenny Slate. Um, and yes, that's what the movie gives us many times over. I was not a big fan of just like the plot or even the baseline story of that movie. I thought it was fine. You know, I don't tend to uh enjoy I don't tend to enjoy movie depictions of like social media virality, you know, stardom, etc. Although here they did take it in a more interesting direction by portraying it as kind of a negative thing. Um, the trailer for the movie really seemed to imply, oh, this internet fame, this is what leads to Marcel reuniting with his family, which is, of course, ultimately what happens, and that's not a spoiler because we even see that in the trailer, which kind of let down the story in a way, I think. Um, anyway, at a base level, that is what happens, but I think there's some nice moments in there, and there's even a particularly nice line where Marcel says something along the lines of, well, it's still a group of people, but it's an audience, not a community. It's just people, you know, looking for the entertainment of this as opposed to listening to what is being said. And of course, another way to view the movie, sorry, this is just what I would put in a video. Another way to view the movie is that it could be representative of the real world experience of Jenny Slate and Dean Fleischerkamp posting those videos in the first place and having them blow up. They also used to be married, I believe. So there's another aspect, you know, the character of Dean is coming out of a breakup, but also another just like bad relationship is absolutely central to the plot. So I have no doubt that there is some level of reflection on their own experience to come up with that story, the heart of the story at least. But yeah, I don't know. It is great. Just some fantastic lines and in a smart way. You know, it's an incredibly subtle tone, and again, I say it's very well written. It doesn't matter whether or not it was written ahead of time or improvised in the moment, although it feels. I would assume most of it was written out ahead of time. It's just great. Great takes, a great character to see expand into different moods and scenarios. And the execution is wonderful. I also think that there's been enough time since the mockumentary boom of the early 2000s, you know, both versions of The Office, of course, then into Parks and Rec, and other projects that I'm sure I've just completely forgotten about. But mockumentary was kind of a big thing for a while there, for the first time in a long time. And if this had come out closer to those projects, it would have felt kind of a little bit more corny, but it works. There's been enough of a pause on that style of filmmaking, I guess, that style of comedy specifically. So even that aspect worked just fine. You know, the incredibly casual, incredibly like intentionally amateurish execution, although it does have some really nice touches in terms of cinematography and lighting and all that stuff, and even framing. I mean, it's a very good looking movie, but they try to trick you into thinking it's just on the fly, right? Anyway, that was wonderful. So that was a movie that I had almost put off for a long time, specifically because I knew it was going to be great. I knew it was going to be great, and I knew that it would be some level of moving, which it is. Um, it's not life changing. Well, how about this? I'll say that it's a life changing movie, but not in the typical sense. You know, it's a skosh. It just kind of nudges or informs, you know, your experience rather than taking things off in a completely different direction. So yeah, so that was great, and that is the only thing that I've watched recently. I think uh, animated movies for sure. I guess I also did watch some more of Violet Evergarden because I had recently found out that it was from Kyoto Animation. Who I'm just a big fan of plenty of their projects, and have talked about them in the past. And didn't know that they did Violet Evergarden, so I went back and rewatched some of the show, and then I'd like to move into the movies and stuff. Not exactly my cup of tea overall, just that the type of show or even the characters or subject matter. But there's absolutely something there. I mean, obviously, I think it's been very popular. Um, there is something emotionally resonant about that show and about the title character. But that's been it. And just real quick, I don't have a ton to say, but Toriyama, uh, most well known for his work on Dragon Ball and creation of Dragon Ball, he died recently. It's very sad. It's very sad, and you know, for me, it's something I've seen more from other people. I never honestly really got into any iteration of Dragon Ball. This didn't happen. And you know, I respect it. I could see myself getting into it in the future, but this didn't affect me the same way it affected a lot of other people. So, you know, that's all. I clearly just had a massive impact, and a massively positive impact, not just on sort of the nuts and bolts of animation, but also perception of animation slash cartooning, I guess you could say. And obviously, you know, establishing still one of the biggest shonen manga or anime ever. So there's that, but again, I can't comment on it much more than that. So I'll leave it there for now. But what else do we have? What else do we got? Apparently, the House is moving to ban TikTok with conditions. And the article here is making good points of the value of TikTok for animation specifically. To be honest, I would not be crushed per se if TikTok went away and there, you know, an alternative rose up, because that's what happens, right? That is absolutely what would happen. I don't think that just because TikTok ceases to exist, that it would mean that something like TikTok would never exist again. That's just kind of crazy and very limited, I think, in its interpretation of current events. Yeah, anyway, but again, not something I'm really going to dive into. But there are a few other things we can check out here. Apparently, Kung Fu Panda 4, which I did not know had even released, has released. And topped the box office, I guess. Budget of approximately 85 million. That's always approximate. Also factor in marketing, which is typically equivalent. And let's see, do we have numbers? Where I just want a number for the opening weekend. I'm not seeing it. Not seeing it. Yeah, I don't know is anyone planning to watch this in the theater? Is there anything about how this has been presented to us so far, or something about what people have said about the movie since release that is captivating people, or is it just, you know, another specifically visually I'm thinking of, right? I mean, it's something we've talked about a million times by now, but the degree to which the bar has been raised in terms of visuals for Hollywood, like mainline animated features, family features or otherwise, means that I personally am much less excited to just see a very run of the mill movie you know, that feels like it could have been made 10 years prior, even if that's not an actually really accurate assessment. Um, how about story? Is there anything about the story of this one that is like, oh wow, this is an entry, you know, like the way people responded to Toy Story 4, right? Of like maybe 3 and then 4, more so with 4, of just like, oh okay, you know, yeah, it's most of the same characters, handful of new characters, but you know, same old guys. Are they really going to make another one? And then, oh wow, the story, the substance of the story, how they're evolving these characters is interesting enough to get everybody to come back out for it. So far, I have not heard anything like that. And in terms of just a practical read of why this has been such a great opening for name, I don't know, just off the top of your head, name the other big animated features that released this past week or within the last month. For me, it's just a complete blank. It's also March. Like it just feels like a very slow time of the year. This has brand recognition, and that is so much of what matters for Hollywood. You know, family animated features. It's just a thing. So I'm not personally expecting a ton out of this, regardless of its box office performance so far. But I don't know. Good, I guess. I do ultimately really like DreamWorks and want them to continue. So good on that front, I suppose. And, you know, at one point in time, Kung Fu Panda was a new IP. So sideways, you know, acknowledgement and approval of this whole thing. Hey, Ugo, how's it going? Ugo asks, what is up? What did I miss? Not too much. I rambled a little bit earlier about the Marcel the Shell movie, which I watched recently and thought was very good. And then I've been running through some headlines as per usual. But how's it going? What's up with you? And do you have any interest whatsoever in Kung Fu Panda 4? It's not hatred, you know. I don't feel hatred for this movie or franchise or anything like that. It's just an absence of interest. It's just zero motivation uh, to go out of my way, you know, to engage with it. So that's what we got. Uh, maybe I don't know. I guess we save this for later when we talk about the Oscar stuff. It'll just add some more commentary, I suppose. This definitely caught my eye. Okay, this is a free updating chronicle of canceled and troubled animated films. That just has a bunch of content from those projects. Um, so obviously, this has been quite a thing. Also, they really leave it wide open, right? Canceled and troubled. That's kind of a wide gamut, right? Uh, Incredible Mr. Limpet was canceled. They must mean some sort of reboot, right? There is that movie does exist. But this looks so cool, and especially you know what we've seen in just the last couple of years. This enthusiasm, this penchant for certain studios to cancel projects that they don't think are going to set the world on fire. You know, anything less than that is considered, I guess, a loss, literally in financial terms. Um, this is an interesting project. I am very keen to check this out. It says it's a book. It also says it's free. Is it an ebook? Spreadsheet. It's a spreadsheet. This is a spreadsheet. Okay, I don't know. I'll free ebook. That's what we got. Okay, cool. Nice. Well, I don't think I'll be able to really dive into this Thief and the Cobbler, obviously. Right now, but I will. This sounds really cool. I am interested to. The design of this icon is throwing me off. Just to turn the page button. This is fun. Yeah, this is great. I will absolutely. I've also just, in more recent years become interested in concept art and sketches and stuff. So even that part will be fun. Anyway, cool project. And I feel like I heard about yet another movie recently that's getting completely chopped. I forget what it was. Ugo says, I did not for Kung Fu Panda 3, but 2 and 1 are very good. Yeah, no, I am pretty sure I saw the first 2 movies. Maybe even the 3rd movie at some point. And again, I certainly don't hate them. Yeah, and I think the first Kung Fu Panda is fine, based on my vague memory of it. It is an okay movie, with some fun characters. I don't know. Even at that time, I just feel like I was, my interest in Jack Black's shtick was really on the way out. So now, what, 10, 15 years later, getting more, and it seems to be the same performance as ever, as, less compelling to me. But yeah, sounds very cool. We'll see. I guess it's still, undecided what's going to happen with that. What is it? The Acme Warner Brothers movie? What is it? Coyote versus Acme. That's what it is, right? I don't think there's been a final decision on that, as far as I know. But we'll see. I don't know. And it's funny too. I guess it's Warner Discovery as well, right? But at basically the same time, meaning the last week or so, I guess. They have been delisting Adult Swim games from the storefronts and stuff, from the digital storefronts. They're just wiping these, I'm guessing for the same reasons as, their cancellations of basically finished movies and that stuff. And at least one of the creators, one of the developers of one of those Adult Swim published games, is just mitigating this by releasing it for free. He's just like, hey, just take the game. Like, this is better than no one being able to get it. And I mention that for the parallel, of course, but also because I really hope that somehow that is what ends up happening with a lot of these Warner canceled projects. There's that Scooby-Doo Halloween movie, was it? Coyote versus Acme, and then whatever else they've canceled or shuttered or whatever. I really hope. I don't know. I'm not hoping for anyone to get themselves in trouble with a massive media entity, but I really hope it just gets leaked. And then it's best of both worlds, right? Sort of. Warner gets to write it off on their taxes. People get to actually watch it. Unfortunately, the team behind it probably won't get to make money from it directly upon its leak, right? Yeah. Anyway. Ugo says, sorry, I did not like Kung Fu Panda 3. Don't think it was very good. Yeah, I honestly don't remember if I've seen it. But yeah, I was hearing that 4 has been doing pretty well at the box office so far. I was just curious if there's something that seems to be setting this one apart. But still, the answer seems to be no. Also, Toots is here. Welcome back, Toots. How's it going? Dude says, hello, how have you been? I've been okay. Yeah, thank you for asking. I hope you've been well as well. Yeah, I've just, as I said early in the stream, my full-time job has been very busy, and working late and stuff like that. So it's left me even less time than usual for stuff here on the channel. But yeah, anyway, this sounds cool. It's a free ebook. You can find, I'm sure if you just Google this, I don't know if I can put the link in chat or if it'll yell at me, but the project is Drawing for Nothing, and yeah, free ebook. There you go. I hope it works in the e-reader stuff because I do have an iPad now, so this would be very fun to look at. But yeah, pretty cool. There you go. And we'll see what gets added as time goes on. I like the idea of it being sort of a living document of some kind, if that's what that means. What was I looking here? Oh yeah, this is also pretty big news. I'll get to it in a minute. Ugo says robot unicorn attack is gone now. What about my high score? I was able to reach the top 1000. I have a friend who absolutely loves that game. I think I tried it out at some point, but didn't stick with it. Apparently. Should I just look it up? I should just look it up. But yeah, the news is apparently Warner Discovery has been delisting Adult Swim games. So that's what I'm going to Google. Here we go. Okay. Here's it. Wow. Yeah. They are apparently delisting all of the Adult Swim games. Several games? Other headlines said all games from a number of digital platforms. This is no good. Come on. Oh my gosh, and developers are having a hard time with it. It's not going well. And I can show you these other. Okay, all their video games says cracked. Unknown Reasons says NME. Polygon phrased it as a racing games. Leave developers feeling sick and dizzy. Even what's that really good one? It's like an anime art style, but sort of a puzzle game, and you're making food. You have to go out and kill the monsters and gather ingredients. That game is very good. That was an Adult Swim published game. I own it on Switch, so that's good news. But yeah, this is terrible. It's a terrible thing, and the idea that there have no reasons have been provided, as far as we're seeing, is pretty wild. That's really something. And again, my God, like, do the financial gains of these kinds of moves really, like, realistically outweigh the negative optics from the, like, people will continue to run with this, and rightfully so. Like, this is a big story. That was kind of a big publisher, and has been for a while now. I don't know. It's just crazy. And I don't even know enough about the situation to guess at what kinds of costs were being incurred by allowing these games, already published games, to stay published. Like, I just don't, what kind of fees are associated with, I thought it was just a revenue split when you actually sell something on a lot of these platforms. I don't know, maybe not, but still, that's really something. So there you have it. I'll move on from that one. Yes, this, okay. French, but you get the idea. Hopefully, it's gone. Rooster Teeth is gone. And what, Red versus Blue, Ruby. I never knew it was Ruby. I always just said RWBY. Genlock, which I made a video about when it was new. Rooster Teeth is gone. We're technically an independent animation studio for a long time. I think based in Texas, right? And since swallowed up by Warner Discovery, I'm pretty sure, to speak of the devil, and it's gone. And this is something that we did talk about on a previous stream. I don't remember how long ago that was. I'm sorry. And the news was basically they're just not making enough money. I think that's when they were transitioning to paid streaming on their website. right, and pulling stuff off of YouTube. That does not seem to have worked out for them. So here we are. Rooster Teeth is just gone. And I mean, I don't want to repeat too much of what I said the last time around, if I could even remember it. But basically, I don't. I don't really. I don't know. I was never a huge Rooster Teeth person. I was never a huge fan of the stuff that they put out. I respected them as a semi or former independent animation studio. But honestly, their stuff really didn't reach me. And I was never especially excited for a new project of theirs. So on that level, I'm not, wounded personally. I just, it's just sad overall. It's sad that they just no longer exist. Clearly, the finances were not working out. The monetization of their legacy work even was just not happening. At least not to a satisfactory degree. I don't know, not too much more to say about that, honestly. But it is sad. And again, in the broader scheme of the current animation landscape, but also Warner Discovery's role in all this stuff, which doesn't seem to get mentioned a whole lot, at least in the coverage I've seen so far. Yeah, they're kind of on a rampage for the moment. So, let's see. Toots has some context for us that might enlighten some of the discussion about Warner canceling all this stuff. Toots says the only thing I've heard that might explain the economics of it is that the tax breaks can be claimed against the lifetime value of the piece of media. Interesting. So they're not just getting a tax break worth 1 year worth of sales, they're getting a tax breaks for all future years of sales as well. And I guess that's estimated by them, right? I'm sure it has to be based in existing data, of course. But do you think they just, give themselves some really generous forecasts of what that lifetime value would actually be? Dude says, I don't know if that's actually true though. I'm too lazy to research. Don't worry about it. Clearly, I'm not doing any research right now either. I guess what I will say, sort of definitively, is there are surely better alternatives. There, even if it amounts to what I think was mentioned in one of the articles. Sorry, the mic stand's blocking the screen. I think it was mentioned in one of these articles about the delisting of the Adult Swim games. Is hey, how about transfer ownership, right? If you can no longer feasibly be the publisher or rights holders of this thing that the developers made, transfer ownership to the developers, and then it's on them, and they can make that decision. Okay, no, I don't want that responsibility, whatever. Or yes, absolutely, I will take that on and it'll be self-published now, right? I could absolutely see, even would it not would it not lighten the load somewhat? Just spitballing here, I don't know, I'm not an industry person, but would it not help for Warner to work with another distributor, right? If typically they do all the distribution stuff for their own, in-house animation feature projects, whatever, what if they get, a third-party distributor, and that distributor has to foot the bill for a lot of the marketing and has to actually work to, distribute the film, as those companies do. I don't know. I do feel confident that there are better ways of approaching this stuff that not only benefit us, meaning, and the teams who made the stuff, allowing it to be released and allowing people to pay for it, right? But on top of that, it's a win for Warner Discovery as a giant media entity too, right? Specifically because of the PR angle. I don't know. That I just, yeah. We'll see. Maybe someone out there can explain how this is not a terrible thing to do, but by all accounts so far, it really does seem like a terrible thing to do with both the games and the movies, especially something that's already done. I don't know. It just seems completely wild to me. Yes, and in the wake, Rooster Teeth is there. The headstone popped up out of the ground, and they're gone. Not a great logo, is it? Not not the most refined. Oh my goodness, sorry. It's mean, isn't it? I want to try to decode this a little bit because it seems to be mentioning uh, Masaki Yuasa. Oh, this is an old project? Okay, well, I don't know. Let's see. Something I can buy? What are you telling me? Slime Adventure short film, which is Yuasa's debut. Oh, wow. Okay. And it's going to be screened at Niigata Festival. Okay, not super helpful. A rare short film released only on a VHS tape included with a V-Jump magazine. Wow. So this is like obscure. Okay. Well, I'm assuming someone is going to upload this somewhere, right? Can you imagine you bought a magazine and here's a VHS. Here's some animated shorts we think you'll dig. I love Yuasa. I think I just talked about his stuff maybe 2 weeks ago. I don't know. But I'll have to check that out. It sounds very cool. I think we can watch this at all without getting... Oh, this might be the whole thing. This might be the whole short right here. Looking for some good frames. I mean, there's some good frames here, but he has a very odd style. Like, great perspective stuff, too. Anyway, okay, shall we? Shall we move on to the main event, more or less? Let's see what we get. This is like always the time when I feel the need to change up the music. That's something. Toot says the way I see it is that they're much more concerned about paying down debt and increasing profitability right now than they are about the artistic or monetary value of selling older media. I could absolutely see that for sure. I also I completely agree that I don't think they are terribly concerned with the artistic side of things, which is like, I don't know. That's a very easy thing to latch onto in terms of criticism, right? Of like major Hollywood studios and media companies, for obvious reasons. You know, it's just, but it's just an inherent contradiction of a lot of these companies that like, oh, well, it is a company. You know, it is profit motive at its core. You can pretend that you're invested in sort of the artistic side of things, or don't even try. You know, just be very blunt about the fact that this is just how it is. This is just your attempt to make as much money as possible. You know, shrug. So it's disappointing but unsurprising, you know, if that is indeed the case. And it seems to be. I don't know. The actions speak very loudly. Sorry, Toots also clarified that older media refers to stuff that's just, you know, a couple of years old. Or more than a couple of years old. Okay. Yeah, which is what we got, right? You know, with Summer Camp Island and what were some of the other shows they removed from Max? I forget. Which is part of the problem. Yeah, okay, so just, I don't know. I feel like it's going to be kind of quick. But here we are. The Oscars happened. I did not watch. I don't think I even have a way to watch the Oscars, although it does ruin the neighborhood because it's sort of nearby. It's just messy. I needed to go to CVS that day. I needed like cold medicine and stuff. But I was like, no, I know where that CVS is, and it's, you know, it's not going to work out. It gets pretty crazy out there. Anyway, so yes, Oscars happened. not a ton of crazy headlines from this one, as in recent years past. Um, Obviously, uh, we're mostly focusing on the animated stuff here, although, whatever, we can talk about anything. Um, Actually, yeah, and on the topic of non-animated stuff, Zone of Interest. I hadn't heard of this movie. I really like the director, Jonathan Glazer, and it won a thing. It won a thing, and his brave Oscar speech represents the best of Judaism. Ooh, okay. There's Yiddish in the movie, so I'm gonna guess this is relevant. Anyway, he makes some crazy movies. Uh, that I usually like a whole lot. So I hadn't even heard about this. I am looking forward to watching it. Apparently, it's on streaming stuff, so I'll probably try that out. But yeah, okay. Well, if it wasn't already obvious from earlier discussion and the news and the thumbnail, the Studio Ghibli movie, The Boy and the Heron, won for best animated feature. Where am I not even seeing it right now? Where is it? It's right here. The Boy and the Heron won for best animated feature. How do we feel? Are we surprised? Probably no. Is this exciting? Yeah, I mean, yes. and this is where I can bring this headline in. Boy and the Heron, well, it's The Boy and the Heron, isn't it? Is the first hand-drawn animated feature to win Oscar. I would edit there. In 21 years. So, like, it's half and half. On one hand, okay, cool. Yes, it is a cool thing. That is a long time. Those 21 years kind of summarize, the major transition from Hollywood animation from hand drawn 2D traditional animation to CG. It has continued to be a somewhat hot topic, I guess, in the animation community for a long time. Does this win in any way mean that hand drawn traditional 2D animation, whatever you want to call it, is coming back around, or like that it is somehow more relevant now? I just don't think so across the board. I really don't think that is the case. It's really just a situation of stars aligning, I think, right? Like, we're talking about Studio Ghibli. We're talking about an incredibly famous animation studio that has only become more famous and more highly regarded in the last 21 years. And all they ever do, with very minor and forgettable exceptions, is traditional 2D hand drawn animated films. Like, it just kind of makes sense, and I also don't think that the voting members of the Academy were really focused on that aspect. I'm sure they were focused on the visual qualities of the film, and how great it looks, and it does look great. How well it's executed, obviously, it's the animation category. But at the same time, I have a feeling they were probably more focused on, wow, this is Miyazaki. Wow, this is Ghibli. He's probably going to die relatively soon. Forgive us for saying so. And this also happens to be a really great movie and a very personal movie. Like, everything. It checked all of the boxes. Also, one of its big advantages over the Spider-Verse sequel, well, is that it wasn't a sequel. And it wasn't a sequel to a movie that had already won an Oscar in this category. So I just, yeah, it offered exactly what the Academy typically wants for this kind of category. And it has the prestige that a lot of Hollywood animated features tend to not have. So it was just kind of a slam dunk. I don't know. We could maybe say that this, shows that yes, of course, 2D animation is still relevant, but like, have people been arguing against that? Are there really people who think that like CG just completely replaces 2D animation, especially in a time when the two are being combined in incredibly impressive ways? Like, no, that's like a clickbait kind of argument. Like, of course, it's still relevant. It never went away. Um, and it's informing CG animation in really interesting ways. I just, it's evolution. Um, so anyway, there you go. But yeah, and I honestly, I don't know. Like, it was the movie that I thought would win the category. It seemed very obvious to me. Um, what else do we say? Is there something else to say about it? I guess one thing worth mentioning is that it is getting a theatrical re-release, so this is a great time to check it out if you have not already. Um, Specifically in US and Japan. I don't know if it's going to be a wider release than that. And then apparently, at least here in the US, it's going to Max. And then it would maybe go to Canada. Sorry, Canada. It would maybe go to. It would probably be Max here. I'm saying Canada because in Canada and the US and Japan, the Ghibli movies are not on Netflix, but in most territories they are. Sorry, it makes sense in my head. So I am saying that outside of North America and Japan, it might end up on Netflix, but not in these markets where their stuff is arguably the most popular. Toot says, I haven't seen The Boy and the Heron yet, but I still think Across the Spider-Verse was robbed. The technical accomplishments in that movie make it feel like a transformative moment in animation, at least to someone who's not an animation fan. Yeah, totally fair. And like, and yes, I do agree that on a technical level, Across the Spider-Verse is more of like just a pure accomplishment, right? And of course, it also has all of its aesthetic accomplishments as well. But again, it does feel like it's so much of a continuation of the achievements of the first Spider-Verse movie, at least to me. And I just think, they felt it was too much. Like, how like, as far as I remember, not all three of the Lord of the Rings movies won Best Picture, right? Like I just feel like they want to spread things out, and we're really just talking about like biases in the human brain, right? We're not talking about like super logical thinking and consideration of all the options. And or even how about this? Multiple choice test, 2 questions in a row, and neither of them you really have a good idea of what it is. But the first one you say C. You have A, B, C, and D. It's one of those Scantron tests. You come to the next question, you still don't really know what it is, but you're leaning towards C. I think the natural reaction to that kind of thing is to say, but it's probably a different one, right? It's probably not 2 C's in a row. I think that's somewhat vaguely analogous to some of the thinking that would go into, oh, well, hey, we gave that first Spider-Verse movie that looked rather similar the Oscar in this category. Miyazaki releases one movie, every 7 years? I think they said this was 7 years since The Wind Rises. I just think it had all these other factors in its favor beyond the movie itself. Although every single time I will say, but it's also a great movie, like it's still great. But yeah, no, I said this way at the beginning of the stream. If Spider-Verse had won, it would have felt completely fine. Like you would also say, oh yeah, I totally understand that. I totally understand that vote, for its own reasons, right? So that's all. Either way would have been fine, and I think this just felt like the safest, the most popular option. Well, obviously the most popular option because it won. So yeah, there you go. Not surprised. I am. I don't know. I'm happy for Ghibli. It is a great movie. They've been working on it for a very long time. Yeah, there you have it. And then this is what won for the Best Animated Short Film. War is Over, inspired by the music of John and Yoko, which I think is the full title. Uh, and yeah, I don't know. Here it is. Um, we'll talk about cell look CG, or like integration of painted work. It's absolutely happening here. Should we look into some of the details? Has anyone seen this? I know the shorts are really hard to get your hands on a lot of the time. 11-minute animated short film. Please don't start playing a video. Or is over if you want it. Okay. An anti-war story by Sean Lennon, okay, and Dave Mullins that features their anti-war holiday song, Happy Christmas, War is Over. Directed by Dave Mullins. Music by Thomas Newman. Ew. I don't like Thomas Newman. Epic Games was involved. And Weta? Wow, okay. Weta, New Zealand, Lord of the Rings, I think was at least partially bought out by Peter Jackson at some point. I'm gonna guess there's no dialogue. It just seems like that kind of film, right? I'm gonna guess it's all about the music. Dude says, did Princess Mononoke win the animation Oscar too? Well, let's take a look in a different tab. Let's see. Princess Mononoke was the Japanese submission for the Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film, not animated. But wasn't nominated. Okay, so it doesn't sound like. Here's an outdated article here that says Spirited Away is the only Studio Ghibli movie to win an Oscar. So Spirited Away. And that was what? Was that 01? 04? Either way, there you go. So no, Princess Mononoke did win the Japan Academy Prize for Best Picture. And it was the first animated feature film to do so. That's something, you know. But yeah, Spirited Away. Which I maybe knew. I maybe knew that was their first one to win an Oscar. But again, you know, a big factor there too is I think that's certainly when they started to become, Ghibli and Miyazaki started to become household names in the West, you know, and specifically in North America. So yeah. What's the story of War is Over? It's set in an alternate World War I reality where a senseless war rages on. Two soldiers on opposite sides of the conflict play a game of chess. Wow, how symbolic. A heroic carrier pigeon delivers the soldiers' chess moves over the battlefield as the fighting escalates. Neither soldier knows his opponent as the game and the... Neither soldier knows his opponent as the game and the war builds to its climatic final move. Whoever wins the game, one thing is for certain. There are no winners in war. So, you know, basic? Basic is the word that's just leaping out at me, which is really unfair. I'm sure it's an excellent short, but I don't know. I can't watch it. You know, I would love to just watch it right now and give some takes, but I can't watch it. I would get in trouble. I don't know. Whose idea was it, though? Well, I guess Sean Lennon, maybe? I don't know. As a PR thing? Remember that song? I don't know. I don't really. Cool art. I'm sure it looks really great. But I can't watch it. Ugo says it was 2001 for Spirited Away. Yep. The VA was the same as Lilo. and Lilo and Stitch. Oh, the voice actor for, um, oh no, Chi, Chi, Chico. No, oh no, Chihor. Oh, it's gone. Okay, just give me a name. Chihiro. I was kind of close. Chihiro slash what? Sen? Is that her name when they take her name away? Anyway. Interesting. That she was also Lilo. Dude says, damn, watching Mononoke is one of my formative memories. Glad Japan gave it the honor it deserves. Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know, I feel like I'm pinning too much on this. But I do think it's relevant to a certain degree. It was a different time. It was a different time for animation as a whole. It was a different time for anime, and specifically a very different time for anime here in the West, and the fact is it does matter. Like general opinion does ultimately matter in for award shows like the Oscars. It's not just a public vote, obviously. It's people in the industry, but hey, if there aren't that many people yet even aware of this realm of animation, or the filmmakers involved or any of that stuff, it's foreign ultimately in a very strict sense, and if they're not open to it, it's less likely to get accolades and kind of stuff. It does happen nowadays every once in a while where a relatively unknown filmmaker in live action or animation who's from somewhere outside of the US makes a big showing at the Oscars, and it's just like, oh, the quality of the work was so strong or just caught our attention so much that it grabbed something. But I don't know. It's also just very competitive, there's so much else going on. And in fact, let's try to find I'm trying to find the rest of the nominations for that year. 70th Academy Awards. Because it wasn't in the animation category again. It was just in international film, right? What do we got? Oh, and I was talking like these were crazy different time periods. No, Mononoke was 98. Spirited Away was 01. Let's take a look. Leading actor, supporting actor, supporting actress, international film. Okay. No, this isn't right because it doesn't say that. This is a mess. This is a mess. The link led me astray. This is a real rabbit hole now. It's not showing up for that year of Oscars. Oh, it wasn't even nominated. That's why. I was trying to see what else it was up against, but Character from the Netherlands won the foreign language film category. Beyond Silence was there, 4 Days in September, Secrets of the Heart, and The Thief. Don't think I know any of. What one for the animation category didn't exist back then. Oh my gosh. Right? Animated feature? No, it did. Oh my god. No. I need to stop. It didn't win. It didn't win. It didn't even get nominated. It should have had a shot, and it didn't happen. I'll leave it there for now. Okay. Sorry. Tude says the inspired inspired by the music of John and Yoko part is what makes it feel so basic, disingenuous. Ugo says it reminds me of the time all those celebs were singing Imagine. Yeah, right, for COVID stuff. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I don't want to. That's the thing, is the short itself is probably really good. You know, even just Weta being involved gives me so much confidence in it. But like, yeah, in terms of premise. Two says Mononoke was the first big prestige anime that managed to break into the mainstream that I was aware of. Wasn't around for Akira though. I totally up for interpretation and argument. I couldn't even place a specific time or movie that really pushed through. Although of course, Spirited Away winning a major Oscar would certainly be a candidate, for that kind of thing. But yeah, it's so subjective, and it's so personal, and that's something that I think we've talked about a few times before. Is even just the perception growing up. I think we all grew up in relatively the same time. The perception of anime as a whole, or other people knowing about anime or getting into the theaters or any of that kind of stuff. So I don't know. It's very much up for debate. But yeah, Mononoke was certainly a big deal, based on what I know. Let's see. Ugo says Akira came out in 1987. I was just born at that time. Okay, so there you go. I think we have a good survey. We have a good sample size. Anime in the 90s. But yeah, I don't know. Even just for me, getting around to Ghibli stuff took much, much longer than it should have, really. And it's sort of funny, just as a quick comment, when I did finally become aware of Ghibli and got a sense of what other movies they had worked on and all that stuff, and how they were, how well regarded they were. For a while, and I was still relatively young at the time, but for a while I had a difficult time placing them in time. Right? There is a certain timeless quality to the style, the art direction, So I never had any idea of like, oh, was this one from the 80s? Was this one from a few years ago in the 2000s? Was this like, I just didn't know. Of course, in hindsight, looking at them now, it's very clear that like Kiki's Delivery Service is much older, than something like Spirited Away, which looks so much cleaner and modern even today, I think. Or The Boy and the Heron, honestly, like it just, you can tell if you're paying attention, the general timeline. But in terms of aesthetics and art direction, it was a toss up, which I just think is kind of interesting. That they have maintained something so clear and sort of singular over many decades of work. Even going back into the pre-Ghibli stuff that Miyazaki worked on, obviously the Lupin films, right? Or some of those. You can see it. You can absolutely see it in the character designs specifically. You can see the roots of that look. It's just kind of neat. Yeah. Anyway. Tude says, I remember it seemed like a really big deal that Billy Bob Thornton was one of the voices for the English dub. From the perspective of 2024, that feels like a fever dream. And that's a whole other topic. Obviously, Ugo mentioned that the voice actor for Lilo, wound up in Spirited Away as the lead. It was such a thing for a while, and I don't know, there's so much research involved in all this. But at some point, Disney really got heavily involved, and maybe we can make an argument for that being around the point in time when Ghibli stuff specifically, and then anime following it, really started to become more mainstream in the West, or specifically the US. But yeah, Disney got involved in distribution, I think. I think they certainly had the physical distribution for a lot of Ghibli stuff for a while. And as far as I know, they were overseeing the dubs for a lot of the more modern dubs, especially, I think, for a lot of those movies. So yeah, Spirited Away dub, Cat Returns dub, Kiki, that one might have been a more modern dub. I can't quite remember. Either way, Disney was heavily involved. John Lasseter, the now much looked down upon John Lasseter, um, was also very, very supportive uh, of Ghibli stuff within Disney. I guess he did like intros in front of the DVDs for some of those movies. Um, he was also apparently just buddies with Miyazaki, so you know, they just knew each other. Um, so yeah, I would say certainly late '90s onward, maybe early 2000s onward. But yeah, having Disney at your back, and promoting your stuff in the U.S. to any degree is a pretty big deal, and it was. I think that did have a big effect on even just people's awareness of the movies, let alone you know acceptance of the movies or their styles. Um, so yeah, that was huge. But that's definitely what I remember, and those were probably the copies of Ghibli movies that I saw first were like Disney distributed DVD or VHS releases, maybe even. Let's see. Anyway, sorry, but as Toots mentioned, yeah, the specific casting, it tends to be very timely, especially Cat Returns. If you look at that cast for the English dub, it's like, okay, uh-huh. These are not necessarily all people who are still super big, but they were at the time. Uh, Celebrity voice casting. It's the whole thing. Alan, welcome back. How's it been going? Good to see you. Alan asks, "Hi, did you hear about Robot Dreams? It was a very interesting watch. Personally, shocked me that it didn't have dialogue. I definitely have heard about it, although it was only fairly recently. So probably on a stream, I saw and looked into Robot Dreams for the first time, and I probably should now, to be honest, because like." I don't know if we would say that movie got robbed. Like there was very little awareness of that movie. I also saw very little in terms of FYC for that movie here around town, which is a pretty good gauge usually for how much money, you know, different entities are spending to promote their movies ahead of the Oscar rush. Um, it looks really cool. It looks really cool. I don't. The last time I checked, there was no way to watch it here where I am yet. Uh, so I really hope there is now. It premiered at Cannes, which is kind of crazy. Uh, I would like to watch it. Yeah, it just looks neat. And you mentioned, just no dialogue. Yeah, that's always an interesting choice for animated projects, especially feature films. I would say it's more common in like Europe specifically. I'm thinking of some of the Chaumet uh, features just have basically no dialogue. It's a lot of pantomime. It was heavily influenced by Jacques Tati, and I think even adapted a Tati script at one point. Um, and those movies are also famous for having very little dialogue. It's all just visual, very visual, and that's why it makes sense, right? It totally makes sense that good animation can completely can communicate extremely effectively without dialogue. It's just not needed if you're good enough. And by all counts, it sounds like this movie did a great job of that. So yeah, I'd love to see it. Again, lack of awareness. It did not make money. It did not get released very widely at all, which is sad. It's sad given that it seems to be of very high quality. So yeah, what do we got here? Is there an Amazon listing? Oh, this is for the book. It's based on a book. Not helpful. 97% on Rotten Tomatoes. You kidding me? Yeah, looks great. What? You have all this stuff, and then you get to this. Wow. Do you think we'll get in trouble if we give it a listen? Is a Mexican artist, I guess. why are the currencies in euros though? It might be really loud. Give us me a second here. Okay. All right. I'll leave that there for now. Get caught up here. Anyway, I'm really glad you liked it, Alan. That's cool. Yeah. Where did you watch it, by the way? I'm here wondering how I can even get a hold of it. How did you check it out? Uga says that was the first time I saw John Lasseter. We're on the Spirited Away DVD extra. Gotcha. I wonder. I'd probably seen him in my dad was a big Pixar fan from the earliest moment, you know. So like I can pretty much guarantee I saw some behind the scenes stuff with Lasseter and the other founder guys before that point. But yeah, you know, especially at the time, he was still such a huge deal, and like the idea of him being an animation ambassador, you know, was interesting. Ugo says, did not hear about Robot Dreams, but it's from a small Spanish-French studio. Thanks for talking about this, Alan. Yeah, thank you, Alan, for bringing it up. It was up for the Oscar. Good for them. That I know it sounds like a consolation, but it is genuinely an accomplishment in its own right. Hey, Princess Mononoke didn't nab a nomination, but this one did. Yeah, just looks cool. Looks very neat. It does certainly look like a graphic novel's art style, doesn't it? It looks like a pretty direct adaptation, I think, of this original source material. But yeah, it looks very nice, very colorful, and I have absolutely no idea, you know, a relationship between dog and robot. That's all I can assume. That's all I've got. Here's a monkey, another monkey, tiger guy, deer guy, and a wiener dog serving not hot dogs. Oh, wait, maybe. I was going to say pretzels, but it does look like they're eating them. Oh, it's apparently distributed by Neon. Pretty big in terms of distributing international stuff in the US. Alan says, I watched it on Twitter. Some person uploaded it there, but I hear it's in theaters around my region. Okay, well, hey, we mentioned that Boy and the Heron is getting a theatrical re-release very soon. Let's see. Maybe Robot Dreams will have a theatrical release. Showtimes. No. Not available at home or in theaters, says Fandango. Okay, well, how about this? I'll look for it in the bowels of the internet, see if I can snag a watch, and then if they release, you know, if they release like a Blu-ray, I'll grab that, or digital copy would be kind of nice. But yeah, I'm just excited to see it, and it's a shame. Like, this is the time to be capitalizing on the press, you know, like just being included in the Oscars means that a lot more people are now aware of this movie. This is the time. Neon, this is your opportunity. Even if it were just to go up on YouTube for free, which will never happen officially, ad revenue I feel like would be substantial. I mean, we've seen how many views some of the nominated shorts get when they just go up on YouTube. Like this, it would actually be kind of a big deal in its own right. Yeah. Anyway, very cool, but yeah, I understand how it did not catch everybody's attention and didn't end up winning. Yeah. I do have some screeners. They're far away. I have some screeners from years past that I nabbed from like friends or neighbors and stuff with their permission, of course, in most cases. It's kind of fun. Some of them, some of the distributors, studios, do a really nice job of presenting the screeners and giving you information about the people involved and stuff. Not Oscars, but the reboot of Twin Peaks had a really nice screener collection. It was so nice. It was this like folded thing, had some inserts and stuff. It was really cool. Anyway, I brought that up because people who are used to getting so many of these screeners are so used to getting a lot of these screeners. So like, they might not even watch everything, when you're voting on the ballot, have you really like checked out every single candidate? You know what I mean? When there's 18 people up for DA, I don't know. Except Nimona, lol. That was certainly a move from Netflix to upload it here, but hey, more people will know about it. Oh, did they? Did they put it up? Nice. I did watch the movie, of course, officially through Netflix a while back, but yeah, they were also trying very hard. They were trying very hard in terms of the for your consideration stuff. I don't know. Maybe 8 years ago. I'll say 8 years ago, when like general representation was such a huge topic in Hollywood, and when Hollywood was so eager to offer performative support for that kind of stuff. I think Nimona would have had a very genuine shot. And weirdly enough, that's kind of around the time when, it was years ago at this point that the original Nimona project was moving forward, right? Before it got axed. And yeah, it is a great story behind that project. The project itself is impressive in so many ways, but I don't know. I didn't feel it. I did not see that one taking home the trophy. So there you have it. Yeah, again, especially with the shorts, like I just please make them more accessible. Please give us even paid opportunities to watch that stuff. I would really enjoy. It's just rare. It just doesn't happen that often. And even more so, wow, I would love to watch this stuff on the stream, but it's just not going to happen. They will not allow that. Yeah. Anyway, cool. I don't know. Is there anything else to chat about with the Oscar stuff? Obviously, we've been focusing on animated stuff. I don't. Do we? Yeah. Do we care? Yeah, I have my feelings on Christopher Nolan. I'll probably leave it there. 20 Days of Marple, Anatomy of a Fall, American Fiction I hadn't even heard of. Yeah, Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar West didn't show up. I mentioned that earlier on. He just didn't do it. Did not show up. Visual effects for Godzilla -1. Yeah, Last Repair Shop. Yeah. Poor Thing's got some stuff. There you go. A good few things. I guess Barbie got nothing, huh? Oh, how are people interpreting that stuff? Oh, unless is this from Barbie? Yeah, I'm going to assume yes. Yes. Okay, it got song. Everybody loves best song. Yeah, nothing else is like jumping out at me. What won last year? Pinocchio won last year, really? Wow. Kanto. Ugh. Soul. Toy Story 4. So wow, Disney Pixar was on quite a streak. I mean, that's not necessarily new, but and then this stuff comes up to play. Nice. Toot says, do you think Oppenheimer was one of those he's been around so long we have to give him an Oscar situations, or did it win on its own merits? I'll say a bit of both on and like I am being very hands off because I haven't even seen the movie. You know, so I'm not the person to comment on that. Had he not won an Oscar before? I feel like he absolutely has. I don't even know how to. No, he isn't. This was his first Oscar. Okay, so I don't know. I did kind of feel that's how it was with the Wes Anderson short. Honestly, again, I'm sure the film itself is good. I will watch it soon. But as I was saying to someone recently, like Wes Anderson had the best shot of getting Oscars very early in his career because that's when his style was still so new and fresh and exciting, but at the same time, he was indie. He was genuinely indie. It took a while, again, for mainstream audiences and probably even industry people to get more familiar with his stuff. And now he's just like, because his stuff continues to be so similar, at least on the surface, you know, what would take one project over the edge? You know, it's I just assumed it would wait until it would only be like at the end of his career or end of his life that he gets all the lifetime achievement awards. It's like, oh, of course we know he's one of the most, you know, interesting and original directors we've had in such a long time. But no particular project necessarily stands head and shoulders above every other one. You know what I mean? Anyway, so is that what happened with Christopher Nolan? I am surprised to hear that he hadn't won an Oscar before. At the same time, I kind of get it. I do not see him winning Oscars for Batman movies, you know, certainly not like directing Oscars or Best Picture. Popcorn movies just don't tend to do especially well at the Oscars most of the time. So, okay, an incredibly long, incredibly heavy, maximalist drama about a very serious historical figure. Like, it is very much Oscar bait, you know? But also, again, the audience and critical response to the movie was so positive. It was genuinely a very big deal this past year. I don't know. I again, like with the Boy and the Heron stuff, Miyazaki and Ghibli, stars aligning. You know, there are enough reasons, in addition to the quality of the movie itself, that the voting members would be like, yeah, sure, okay. So again, yeah, I do think it's a mix of both for sure. But I won't say any more than that because yeah, I haven't seen the movie and I don't feel like I should be commenting on that side of things. But yeah. Overall, I'm not a huge Nolan fan, personally. I'm also not a big fan of Nolan fans, but that's a very personal thing. Yeah, just a subjective thing. So yeah, that's all. Toot says, I saw the movie in 70mm IMAX, and the experience was worth the money, but it wasn't the best movie I saw last year in theaters. And I don't see many movies in theaters. Yeah, totally fair. That's a good comment to add for sure. Experience, that's a word used for a lot of his stuff. And again, yeah, IMAX stuff, he loves IMAX, he loves the theater experience and all that business, you know. Actually, speaking of 70mm stuff, I've heard that there are going to be some 70mm showings of Dune Part 2, which I think I would like to see. It's been a long time since I've seen a 70mm showing of a new movie, and it is like genuinely special. You know, it's not just like an old 35mm print. Like there is something very special about just the scope of the presentation, and the quality is like just crazy good. So I would like to do that. We'll see. I haven't gone out of my way yet to check out the movie. But yeah. Ugo says The Departed is an okay movie, but this should not have been the one to win, and it's also the only personal Oscar win. What do you mean by personal Oscar win? Um, I mean, general thoughts on The Departed. I remember seeing it a long time ago. Maybe when I was living in Boston. It's fine. Yeah, I agree. I'm not crazy about The Departed. It's just yeah, it's not exactly up my alley, you know. Uh yes. Tude says, as far as I know, it was the first 70 millimeter IMAX screening ever in my city. Oh wow. Dune Part 2 is promoted as a 70 millimeter IMAX movie, but it was only released in 12 theaters worldwide. Oh wow. Okay. You mean only released in that format in 12 theaters worldwide, right? Okay. Yeah, I'll have to look into that. Yeah, no, I like those a lot. What did I see? I saw um Hateful Eight. I saw on 70 millimeter. I did not get the fancy booklet. You were supposed to get a fancy booklet for those showings, and I didn't get any. I don't know what they were doing at that theater. Saw that in 70 mil. I saw Lawrence of Arabia in 70 millimeter in like the front row of a nice theater here in LA, and that was very good. Um, I also saw Roma, one of my favorite movies. I saw it at home on a laptop first, then I saw it in a theater as a digital projection, and then I saw a 70 millimeter showing at the same theater as Lawrence in Arabia that was in the run up to the Oscars stuff, which is kind of neat. Neat for a number of reasons, but I also think it was neat that like you get to see the Netflix logo on film in black and white. Uh, that was kind of cool. And I did see at some point the black and chrome version of Fury Road, but I honestly don't remember if that was a film showing at all or just a digital projection. Um, if I could see playtime on 70 millimeter, that would be something very, very special for a number of reasons. But yeah, I would love to do that. Tude says, I think Dune was shot on digital, then transferred to film, so it's not as pure of an IMAX experience as a Nolan movie. Yeah, I that's a whole other rabbit hole too. It's sort of funny. I have heard similar things about music formats. So there are certain albums where they'll record it digitally, but then transfer to either tape or vinyl, and then record like a rip of that tape or vinyl recording to be the official copy that's then distributed, right? So like there's very much this uh this pervasive sense that you're really adding something, you know. And there are some objective indicators of differences between analog and digital formats for sure. But anyway, that's what that reminds me of is it still needs to look filmic, but we don't necessarily want the hassle uh, of shooting on film. And it would be a massive hassle. Oh my gosh. And like the expense, like you're adding so much to the budget. You're making things so much harder for everybody on the crew and the cast. Depending on your shooting locations, it could be an absolute nightmare or just completely infeasible, right? Like there's so many reasons not to shoot on film for a modern day production, especially a giant big budget, you know, studio production. So like I don't, you know, I don't care too much. Um but yeah, at the same time I totally believe that Nolan would have the sway with studio executives to say like, oh, I'm gonna shoot it all on film and you just have to deal with it, you know, you just have to pay for all this stuff and everybody has to put up with it. So yeah, you know, yeah. But yeah, even prints, you know, for stuff that was originally shot digitally, that's fine. You know, you can still get something out of that. That can still be interesting in its own way. Yeah. So yeah. Ugo says Lily Gladstone won Best Actress in a Motion Picture Drama for the movie Killers of the Flower Moon, for example. So I guess this means it was for himself and not someone in one of his movies. Um, mm, 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 mm. I think I get what you're saying. And did she? I wasn't even paying attention. For this year, Colors of the Flower Moon was last year, right? We had Emma Stone for Best Actress. Supporting actress was Holdovers. Maybe I'm misunderstanding something about this. Sorry. For drama. For Golden Globe? Sounds like a Golden Globe category, that's what I'm saying. Dude says, is being close to so much cool movie stuff, especially fancy theaters, worth the hassle of living in LA? Well, no. 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 No, there are lots of other cities in the US and Canada, and also many parts of Europe that have like really great theaters, especially art house theaters. And those places are not LA, so there's like an inherent advantage to that. So no, but no, I've also just lived in other cities that had really great theaters, and you know, you just had to know where they are and like be in touch with their schedule and stuff. So yeah, there are more in the LA area, just like per capita, I guess. But no, I don't know. Like maybe if you're super hardcore about seeing film showings or something like that, it would be worth it. I don't know, but yeah, not really. It is neat. Like, I've probably talked about Tarantino's theater before. I'm sure I have. He owns a couple now, but his sort of core theater, the New Bev, is genuinely cool. And like, he's not doing the programming. He has a team who just, you know, so it's not like he's picking out the movies, but I am pretty sure because they only show stuff in 35 millimeter, I'm pretty sure that plenty of the prints just come from his personal library, like, you know, and then they send out for something that he doesn't have. So, just a theater that has such a focused sense of programming. They're not doing a ton of variety. They're really focused on one type of thing. That is kind of neat, but again, that is absolutely something you can find in other cities if you're lucky, basically. But yeah, 70 millimeter is a little bit trickier just because it is such a demanding technical thing, and the screen has to be like a certain size to support it. I could see that being more rare, you know, in plenty of other cities, but it does exist elsewhere. But no, it is, yeah, it's a side benefit, I guess, you know, of having theaters, especially when Movie Pass was a thing for 2 months. Wow, I had a time. I might have even seen Roma on Movie Pass. I don't remember. Anyway, Dude says, was that in the Golden Globes? Oh yeah, we're asking Ugo about that win. Jude says, the few old art house theaters in my city keep puttering along, but we don't have anything even remotely close to Tarantino's theater. And the theater at Tarantino's theater itself is not nice. And I think that's part of the point. Like, it is not fancy. They did a major renovation and it looked just as bad as before. Like, it reminded me of the thing in Archer where the office gets torched. So they pretend to renovate it into something nicer, but it turns out they've recreated how crummy it used to look. That's exactly how they did the new Bev. But yeah, he bought an older theater called the Vista, which is nicer, better looking and stuff. But anyway, but no, I'm glad. You know, I really do hope that art house theaters elsewhere continue to survive. That was my theory a few weeks ago, is that if the mainstream theaters do die, if the chains die, the art house theaters would still be fine. Just because it is more of a specialized thing and it has sort of a built-in audience. But anyway, but yeah, I hope so. I hope so. I get so much from those kinds of theaters, and especially if you live nearby, it's such a no-brainer for just like something to do. You know, it's those are some of the only theaters where I'll just say, oh, I trust them. Like, well, I haven't heard of this movie before. Oh, it's okay. I'll buy a ticket. And I'll watch the movie. It's gonna be fine. Anyway, lots of blabbing for me. Ugo says, yes, you're right. It was for Golden Globe Awards. I was just using that for the example due to the wording they were using for Scorsese. Gotcha. Yeah, Scorsese, man, flowers, flower moon. I'm trying to shorten it. My voice is really going too. Uh, didn't really show up, did it? It's not really here. I don't know. They were really pushing that one too for the awards. They were really trying. Let's see. Tooch says one of the plastic parts on the 70mm projector broke during the first week of Oppenheimer screenings in my city, and they had to fly in an American technician to fix it. People were very mad. That's very funny. I mean, sad and inconvenient, but very sad and funny. Um, wow, that's crazy. But yeah, no, I have no doubt that it's just a giant pain to do the 70mm showings. It's just got to be completely crazy. Um, anyway, or IMAX, or both. Okay. Well, you know what? We're probably nearing the end here. I don't know. Yeah, I don't think I have any more headlines to get through. I think I've basically said as much about the Oscars as I should have, and probably more. Um, kind of glad I didn't really have to watch them at all. Uh, oh, they're apparently producing a series based on Sakuna of Rice and Ruin, which is a fun game. Ah, it's getting anime. Cool. Anyway, uh, so I think I'll wrap it up soon. What else? Yeah, I don't know. I'll plan to be back next week, Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific. I don't know what the theme is yet, but we'll find something. It'll be good. And what's we got? I don't know. I am working on other things, but it's time. Um, and I don't know. If we want, we could try to do another book club thing and watch Marcel the Shell movie. I'll gladly watch it again. But yeah, I'm still split on whether that's worth a video so late after release or just talk about it during one of the streams. But it's pretty short. It's on Netflix, at least here in the US. Um, so yeah. Toot says, "What's your hottest Oscar take for this year or last year, if you prefer?" The stars seem desperate. That's my take. Certain things about the antics of the stars surrounding the Oscars for the last 2 or 3 years. I'm not necessarily saying that these things have been coordinated by the Academy as like an attempt to boost viewership or just general interest in the Oscars. I'm not saying that. I won't go that far. But on an individual level, the antics make celebrities seem desperate. And I don't know, like, it would seem most likely it's just a desperation for general attention and relevance. That is the only thing, that matters for their careers anymore, really. Um, but I don't know. I'm tempted to interpret it on a more, a more personal level of like, are you okay? Like, is there something going on where you just really feel the need to stand out, in a sea of people who are already super famous? I don't know. It's not exciting to me. It's not interesting, when these things go down and when people start chatting about them. I think it's just kind of awkward, and in a way that's compelling in that we don't normally get to see how famous people actually are as people. They're very carefully shielded, by various teams and layers of money. So I guess there it's a little compelling to guess at what they might actually be like, but it's just not a good look. Yeah, I don't think it's helpful. Um, I don't know. You don't want to seem desperate as a celebrity. When people smell blood, you're on the way out. You're already losing the relevance. It's just time. It's just time. Yeah. Toots says, have a good night too, as well, Toots. Thank you for being here. Alan says goodbye. Thanks for being here, Alan. I really appreciate it. Toots says the Will Smith slap was the best thing that happened to the Oscars in recent years, and the online overreactions to it were incredible. Exactly. Like there is something to the spectacle, or like you said, other people's reactions. Observing all of that can be really fun, but in terms of the individuals involved, you're like, maybe calm down a little bit. Like maybe this was not, it is trashy. There's fun in the trash, but you don't want to stick around there for too long. Okay. All right. Well, I think I'll leave it there. Okay. Well, gosh, as always, thank you to everybody who came out for the stream live, especially you folks there in the chat. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing it. Yes, that is that. Thank you to everybody watching the archive version of the stream later on. Keeping it alive. I love it. Thank you so much. It means a lot to me. Yes, I will have new stuff on the channel when I can. Regardless of how much traction it gets, it will appear. It says the stars should be more chill like you are. Wow, I'm flattered that I seem that way. I'm mostly tired, but thank you anyway. Cool. I'll go out with a song. Thanks everybody once again. Have a great night. Take it easy. Have some nice relaxing times this weekend. Okay. Thanks for stopping by.